Hello and welcome to podcast number 39. Hello, Aristocracy podcast Rhif now. My name is Mr. Gareth Evers and this is Mr. Henry Firefly Cooper.
Firefly.
You got the emblem thing there. That's
right. Oh yeah, I totally forgot I was wearing this hoodie today.
Just point out what clothes you're actually wearing there, Henry.
Well, I get dressed in the dark when I wake up at 6:30 in the morning. I just throw on whatever's on the floor. Hopefully it's clean underwear, maybe not. It's a lottery, my morning routine.
From where I'm saying, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Mine. So today in the podcast we are going to be discussing a couple. Well, I've got a conversational discussion around the morality of supporting questionable monetization methods in full-priced games. I have had a conversation with some of these people. It's an interesting conversation around Fallout 76 and the Fallout First subscribers. They've formed their own Aristocracy, and they've a private group on Facebook and Reddit. And I've kind of what's the word? Infiltrated it, and had a conversation with them, like a good any good spy movie or something like that. So I'll talk you through that, as well as Henry's got a topic on, what is it?
On China being the control freak that they are. I mean, I tried really hard not to get too deep into conspiracies, politics, and politics. But none of our viewers will be from China anyway, because all this sort of stuff is blocked there to begin with. So
after that, we have Discord questions from the Patreon supporters, as well as we will be reading out our favourite YouTube comments from this week. So let's dive right in. What is this apocalyptic aristocracy, as they're calling themselves? Now, this is Fallout 76. If you're not familiar with Fallout 76, they released a subscription. It's a paid full price game. It's been around for like a year. Everyone hated it because it was buggy and it was nonsense. They went back on their promise for cosmetic only microtransactions, and are now introduced recently some items in the store, Atomic Store, which are gameplay altering, which give a better experience to people who want to pay for them, as in something like a fridge, which stores your food or keeps your food fresh for longer, as well as a robot that goes out and collects junk for you. There's weapon repair kits, gameplay altering microtransactions in a full price game. Very questionable, right? On top of that, there's a Fallout First subscription, which they announced and launched a couple of weeks ago, and that introduced the limited capacity scrap box, which again is another gameplay alter, making the experience better for people who want to shell out more money. So it was contentious in itself. Although around launch they did have issues surrounding the scrap box just eating people's loot, which was quite funny. And private servers not actually being private was another one. You pay for private servers, as well as a host of other things. We went through it in a podcast a couple of weeks ago. I don't know. I mean, from a personal perspective, it just seems like a ridiculous thing to be paying money for and supporting. That kind of monetization method just doesn't hit home with me at all. But the fallout from First. See what I did there?
Nice, I guess.
See what I did there? It was that when Fallout First became available, subscribers were being targeted by non-subscribers, right? Some people say it was bullying, some people just saying that they're just targeting them. But one guy who was a Fallout First subscriber used an exclusive Mothman emote in a public server, and it didn't go down too well. And this is him quoted on Reddit. "I got beaten up when I decided to do the Mothman emote in Vault 51. At least 5 to 7 people in teddy bear costumes kept punching me." K.A. the Human said on Reddit. That's quite funny, right?
I love that.
Teddy bear costumes, like they're anonymous.
Yeah, just getting gang
although the names are hovering above their heads, they're like anonymous teddy bear costumes.
There's got to be a coordinated effort. It's like, right, boys, we're going to be there, teddy bear costumes, and bring your lead pipes.
Just that fact alone turns it from what some people are calling bullying into some sort of, it's a funny thing, right?
And saying, I got beaten up. Right, well, you trolled them.
You're in a PvP game. You're in a PvP game, and you got bullied. You
trolled them for using an exclusive emote, and then they kicked the shit out of you.
That's just fun.
You started it, to be fair.
You taunted them with your.
Oh, look, it's a moth.
Yeah.
They turn into Godzilla and get all pissed off.
But on a serious note, right, tension between subscribers and non-subscribers has been dubbed the class war by media, like Kotaku calling it the class divide or something like that, and other people the class war. So non-subscribers aren't happy about the Fallout First subscription, and you know, they're venting some of that towards the Fallout First subscribers. One guy on Reddit said, everyone is mad and afraid that your purchasing of the subscription will be enough to make it profitable and push the goalposts of what's acceptable in gaming further. Another guy said, stop killing video games. So you can understand, you know, that is the result of this subscription, and it's interesting from from Bethesda's perspective. They don't want this, right? They don't want the community in their game divided along this class divide and arguing with one another and being toxic towards each other. That can't be ideal for them, right?
No, I think what they want is for the subscribers to recruit the non-subscribers. That would be ideal for them, because then they can make even more money. Although all this talk of class, I mean, if you had any class, you probably wouldn't be playing Fallout 76. I mean, let's be honest here.
Oh, speaks the posh man himself.
Yeah, exactly.
If you had any class at all, you wouldn't be paying for this.
That's one thing about life I know, it's class.
So from the perspective of non-subscribers, people are upset that the subscription amounts to having gameplay advantages over non-subscribers. That subscribing incentivizes companies to separate functional gameplay content behind a paywall in future. The game was full priced at launch, full price purchase. That's disregarding the deep discounts that you currently get. You can pick it up for like £7, or you get it for free with like a £5 joystick or something like that. But many people believe that paying more money for additional functional content, gameplay altering content, non-cosmetic content is a slippery slope, and we should just not do it. So my question is, are people who buy into this economy of selling the gameplay buying the gameplay advantages at least partially responsible for the companies offering them? Because if nobody paid for the gameplay advantages, companies would be wasting the time by selling them, right?
Yeah, if people can pay to cheat, they absolutely will. And if they can get away with it, because it's not like criminalized, let's say, even not necessarily legally, but in like the online community, they can get away with it, so they will, because it makes life easier. It's like, well, it was fairly recently, a few months ago, wasn't it? There was a bunch of stories about parents in America bribing their way to get their kids into really good universities and stuff, so they could, you know, alter their grades and shit. Happens all the time. It's not just America, but that's just the most recent example on my head. Happens all the time, and if people can do that, they are going to.
But specifically, some of the responsibility for these companies offering this shit has to fall with the people buying this shit.
Yeah. Right?
They have to be somewhat accept somewhat of the responsibility for this happening to our games. For companies, gaming companies deciding to separate some functional gameplay content, non-cosmetic, as separating that off and charging a separate amount for it, because they're only doing that because people buy it. And if people didn't buy it, then they wouldn't do it. So, I mean, that's my thing, right? All right, it's not all their fault, and it's you know, it's not all the company's fault either. But still, I think these people have to understand that they are partially responsible for this monetization model happening these days in modern gaming. Yeah,
it's like if the man who invented the gun, he's not solely responsible for every murder that's been committed subsequently. The person who bought the gun and then fired it, they're responsible because they chose to make that decision. Yes, the option was provided to them, but they still made the choice to do it.
Interesting analogy there, Henry. So with increasing tension between subscribers and non-subscribers, and the subscribers being targeted in-game in teddy bear outfits and such like, now subscribers have turned to creating their own private communities on Reddit and Facebook to get away from people, so they can you know, have a haven where they don't feel victimized for having, you know, for being the higher class.
Echo chamber, I would call it.
Well, then that's one way to put it. So there's a Facebook group called Apocalyptic Aristocracy. They've called themselves that. They call themselves the aristocracy, the higher, higher people. Everyone else are plebs. and it's on a group on Facebook that currently has 387 members in 8 days since it was established. I didn't manage to get access to the Reddit community because I had to message the admin and they haven't got back to me yet. But it was pretty easy for me to get access to this Facebook community. And interestingly, in the Facebook community, the users or the subscribers who are part of the community, they refer to the non-subscribers as peasants.
I mean, we always try and say about toxicity in gaming, right?
Yeah.
This is the biggest thing ever. It's coordinated, organized.
I mean, they say it mainly in jest. It's like, lol plebs. But still.
Plebs who aren't mugs paying for a shit service which doesn't come with half of what you're supposed to receive.
That was my initial response as well. It was like, what? How the hell? How dare they judge us?
Yeah.
When they're doing what they're doing. But then I thought about it for a second. I thought, well, let's have a conversation. Because somebody, a user called Dorothy Greenall posted something on the Facebook group, and she said the following. So I feel like on this side of the divide, obviously she's a subscriber, when I poke at the plebs, I do so in jest. And only because there are so many super angry plebs out there. I'm not sure why they spend so much energy on anger over a game that no one is forcing them to play. So on that point specifically, she's not sure why they spend so much energy on anger. She doesn't understand the points of contention that the non-subscribers have, right? So I took it upon myself to inform her.
Yeah.
I was going there not being toxic, to just represent the people who have the opposing position, so it doesn't turn into an echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
So that they can start to understand other people's perspectives without them just, lol, look at the plebs, we're the higher society type of... So I was being very polite, and I asked her specifically, do you think you're partially responsible, like I asked the question just now, do you think you're partially responsible for the direction these companies are taking? If nobody paid for the gameplay advantages, then companies will be wasting the time trying to sell them. And she comes back, the ship on that sailed long before Fallout 76. As a single person, I won't change a thing. And as a person who feels I got value from my subscription and wants to believe the money spent is going back into making the game bigger and better and more awesome, I have no regrets. I don't spend a lot on frivolity, and this is the perfect thing for entertain and keep me out of trouble. She's got a point, right? She's enjoying the game. She can afford it. She feels like she's supporting the community. Why not? If she doesn't have the same problem with the gameplay altering purchases, which gets us all riled up, why shouldn't she just support something that she feels aligned with? And that's why my initial reaction of, who are these plebs trying to tell us that we're plebs?
Yeah.
Don't think that.
I mean,
that's why, because I can see both sides of it, really. Because if she doesn't feel the same way as us, then... Yeah,
I don't ever like to be, like, telling people what to do from this platform that we have and our subscribers and viewers and whatnot. I don't want to be the person saying, don't do this because I believe this, this, and this. Do what the fuck you want because you believe what you want. But understand that this decision has consequence, whether or not you personally think it's fine, and whether it doesn't affect anyone else, even if it isn't gameplay altering. If you're like, no, I'm contributing to this economy and it's only my little world, I'm fine, yada 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 yada, doesn't affect anyone. But understand that it does add up and it does damage the industry altogether, and the way games are marketed and monetized, and every one person adds up to one larger whole. And it's not about, oh, it won't make a difference. That's the same thing with voting, saying, oh, my vote won't make a difference. Chances are most people feel that in their life. I know I feel it all the time, especially with an election coming up. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck to vote for. They're all a bunch of tossers. But you still should do it, or or protest or something, like actually make a decision.
Yeah, and I feel like her not understanding where the grievances were from the non-subscribers is the reason I came out and put this out there, right? Because she might not understand it, she might not get this perspective, but if people are being toxic towards them, they need to understand why. They're not just being toxic for the sake of being toxic. I mean, it's toxic because they've got a good, valid point. They want the industry to be better. They don't want paid content separated off from, or additional content, paid content separated off from the base game when you've already paid for the game. This is a you know, it's a morality thing, really. I think.
What's the expression? Cutting your nose despite your face. Like, oh yeah, it's not that bad, but that's because you can't see the wider problems that it causes.
So anyway, another user called Jared Beers said, my whole response to them is to point out that those of us who have played World of Warcraft had to purchase the game and then pay monthly subscription fee and then buy its expansion separately. People act as if this is a new thing that hasn't been going on in MMOs for decades. He carries on. I'd actually think Bethesda's approach is better because at least people who don't want to regularly pay can still play. The alternative is mandatory subscription. Now, he's talking specifically here about expansions or paid expansions or paid access to the game, which is not what the issue is with Fallout First subscription. Yes, it's a subscription in the same kind of way, but the grievances or the exceptions to Fallout First subscription is that they're offering gameplay advantages, right?
Yeah, and the whole argument, it's not as bad as blank, that isn't an argument of why this is good.
Justification.
Yeah, like what the World of Warcraft system, it's not perfect, but just because it's been going on for decades certainly doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah. So I replied to both of these in one post, of which I haven't had a reply from any of them. And we're talking 40 minutes ago now, and it looks as though I'm not able to tag them in my responses anymore. So maybe I've been demoted to a lower class aristocracy, if that's even possible. I'm not even.
You're the butler. You live in the house, but you don't get any of the benefits.
Before this post, I didn't out myself as a non-subscriber. See, so they didn't know I was a spy, but I came out and just outed myself. So this is what I said, and they've had no response to this so far. I said, from where I stand, additionally monetizing gameplay advantages is completely abhorrent and should not be supported. That's my issue with Bethesda and not relevant to expansions or other similar additional paid gameplay content, which is often very worth the money. There's no judgment here towards you guys for supporting them. You have your own reasons, each to their own. I am here for a civilized exchange of perspectives, even though I disagree with you guys. You should know that not everyone who disagrees with you is toxic, but I do worry that you try and misrepresent our arguments by throwing all additional purchases, for example, all expansions and stuff, into the same category as gameplay advantage purchases in order to justify supporting the subscription. A lot of games don't monetize anything additional and offer superb service-based games. No Man's Sky is one example, offers multiple expansions and updates, gameplay altering without feeling the need to monetize it. Bethesda chose to do this to take advantage of people like you who are willing to make the payment, in spite of all the other peasants who choose not to support the economy and are left with a subpar experience.
So gutted they didn't reply.
They have not replied yet, and I've, like I said, I'm not able to tag them in that thing, so they don't even get notified. When I initially posted that, I was able to tag them, which means they probably got notified. One of the admins probably took away my privileges of being able to tag people in as soon as they learned I wasn't a Fallout First. But I think it's an interesting point, right? And I don't want this guy, Jared, whatever his name is, to misrepresent what we're arguing about here by saying, it's just like expansion. It's not just like expansions. This is gameplay art, and this is a different thing. This is a new thing that they're starting to do, and we need to push back on. So putting it like this, he's got no reply to it yet, and let's just 40 minutes ago, still waiting.
That's the problem with how a lot of these discussions end up going, is it just brands the other one as toxic, but you've done a good job here of trying not to be anything like that, and just being like, I firmly disagree and here's why. Like, it's a critical thing. It's not just screaming into the void, which is one of the problems with stuff like Reddit and Twitter and a lot of social media in general, is because it's such a fast, moving thing. People don't take the time to, consider perhaps everything they should, and they often vomit out what they're saying, even though they don't necessarily believe that. And if you fight back with them, not fight back, but if you respond to them, they'll often go, oh, okay, maybe I hadn't considered that. Yeah,
exactly. And that's why echo chambers are so bad, right? And this is, this whole group is an echo chamber. All right, I've seen another person say and be a little bit more like forthright in his opposition to them. I've said, like, there's no judgment on your part personally. I don't judge you. This is Bethesda's point. But I also put the question, do you think that you're partially responsible for the companies doing this? Because I do. I believe that they are partially responsible. Not fully responsible. Not to the point where I'd be toxic towards them. But I think it is important that they do see this side of the equation. And I would also encourage anybody else who is of a similar mind, not on this specific topic, but on anything that you see online that you don't agree with, just think for a moment and how you can get your point across without being toxic, to try and influence people's thoughts rather than just butt up against them and have an argument online, because that's not how you solve anything. That's not how you reach an understanding, right? Let's not be personal about it. Let's talk about the facts. I disagree with you. That doesn't mean that I hate you. It just means that, have you considered this and this point? Have you considered that and that point? So that's it. That is what it is at this moment. And I think that just having them question whether they are partially responsible for these companies trying to nickel and dime us with additional functional gameplay content like this, I don't know, might get a couple of them thinking. And I don't know. Just a thought, just a conversation. Let us know what you guys think around, or any opinions around this down in the comments.
Without being toxic, of course.
Of course.
Don't go doing that. So let's move on to our next story, and it's all about China. So this is going to be a fun one. And again, as I said earlier, I'm trying not to be too conspiracy-y, although I'm not going to lie, it's right there at the front of my brain. So China are currently they're about to, or it's an ongoing thing, impose curfews on underage gamers. So people in China under the age of 18, they're going to have a deadline for when they have to stop gaming, and then a time when they can start playing again, and then a few different things. So the curfew is for minors, and it's apparently in an attempt to combat gaming addiction, which the government is calling harming the physical and mental health of minors. That sounds nice, and I definitely agree that certainly is a thing. But I don't believe that's the government's motivation for it at all.
No.
So that's the little conspiracy thing. So underage gamers can't play games between the hours of 10 p.m. and 10 a.m.
Wow.
So that's an 8-hour gap. So there you go. It's just your bedtime. Most kids.
Understood. What age? Do we know what age?
It's under 18s for this section, and there's a few more different age restrictions. And also Monday to Friday, you're only allowed 90 minutes of game time. Yeah. Which, as a gamer, of course, I'm going to say that sounds a bit harsh, especially when you're a kid, when you have all this free time. Yeah,
that's been a thing for a while in China. That's not new, right?
Yeah.
The time restrictions have always been there for certain age groups, and it depends how old you are, how long you get to play.
Yeah, there was one for, I think, under 12s. It was limited to, even that was only 2 hours. So now they've slashed it again and increased the age bracket.
Got ya.
Monday to Friday, it's 90 minutes. But on Saturday to Sunday, so the weekends and also public holidays, you're allowed 3 hours. So that's a bit more, accommodating.
Well, if you think about it, right, as a parent, I would think that these are very reasonable guidelines in terms of you don't want your kid playing on a screen or looking at a screen for a prolonged period anyway, because they do turn into little bastards. They do. They honestly do.
How many times have we been on an online match of anything from Call of Duty to FIFA to Fortnite or whatever, and there's always some kid going, I fucked your mom.
Yeah, not just that, but from my personal perspective, from my own first-hand experience, if my little girl is watching the TV, like on a weekend, if she watches like 2 or 3 hours of TV first thing in the morning, she's an absolute terror the rest of the day, and her mood is just unbalanced. She's like flaky all the time, and it's like, well, is that because you've been watching? Just do some arts and crafts or something. Do something physical. Tidy your room. Just do something that engages your brain and doesn't turn into a screen zombie, as we call it. Yeah, and I think these types of guidelines, although they're imposed and they're mandated by the government, I think maybe that's questionable in itself, but I think that these general guidelines are a good thing in general if families impose them themselves rather than if the government did so.
That's pretty much exactly where I'm standing on it. So I'll talk a bit more about that in a bit, but so the idea and the principles that are being applied, I don't really disagree with.
Yeah.
But to me, it's absolutely a method of control.
Because it's been imposed.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll move on to that because there's a few more different
Sorry,
things.
did I jump the gun there?
There's a couple more bits in this. Well, it's not even really legislation yet. It's just kind of like a government initiative and like a guide for parents. A big one, which I'm a huge fan of, is limits on online spending are going to be introduced. So it's going to be limited to 200 yuan. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce the Chinese currency, which equals about $29, which is what, like £22 or something. And that's going to be between 8 to 16-year-olds. I don't know what under-8s apparently have unlimited spending.
Or they're not allowed to spend.
Or maybe they're not allowed to spend anything, which I mean should be the case. You shouldn't really be allowed to spend anything until you're 18. I don't think, because so that's $29 per month, which sounds pretty good to me as a step.
When they say online spending, though, are they talking specifically microtransactions here? Are they talking about purchases of games?
So this will be stuff like microtransactions, and a lot of it is geared towards the mobile market of like buying gems or extra time and all that kind of stuff. Not necessarily content items, but any form of stuff. Another one which is a bit more controversial, which I don't entirely agree with, is minors will be required to use their real names and their personal ID numbers to log in. And I don't really know what the personal ID number means. Must be a thing in China. I don't really know, because my only personal ID number that I could think of would be my national insurance number,
right?
Which I certainly don't know off the top of my head.
No,
I know there's a P and A at the beginning, and a C at the end.
I know it all.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it out now, but
I think I know what some of the numbers are.
Mine starts with JH. That's all.
I'll just search it up in my emails, and I'll find an old payslip from jobs from years ago. Anyway, so these restrictions are meant to serve as a guide for parents, according to an unnamed spokesperson for the Press and Publication Administration.
Yeah.
Which was a quote from The Guardian about it. And all this info came to, I think it's called Xinhua, which is the big state-controlled news agency.
Yeah.
So that's where all their information comes from. But the real names thing, I have a big problem with. And again, this is so that they can see who's doing it personally, and there's no qualms like that's little, I was going to say John Smith, but I don't think there's many John Smiths in China. But you know what I mean. I feel like usernames are a great way of keeping a degree of anonymity for safety for kids in the online world.
Oh, definitely. Safety is a big consideration for kids, that's for sure. However, using your real name and your personal ID will make them consider at least them being personally accountable for their actions online, because so many people are toxic. So many people just be toxic to other people, and because they're anonymous, because they're not face-to-face with them, because they've got no repercussions, because it's just a troll account or whatever. This system at least disincentivizes that and makes people personally accountable for their actions online, which, again, I kind of agree with that side of it, but at the same time, you want your kids to be safe. You don't want your information to be out there, right?
Yeah, I'd rather kids be safe and not have that information potentially compromised by people who have various unpleasant intentions. I mean, I don't have kids, but I'd rather have usernames and deal with idiots who just say be toxic online and say inappropriate things and shit than have your kids be exposed like that. But then
if you think that if everyone who used the internet had to use their real names and had to, their account that they signed up to for any website had to include their own ID number, they'd be really, really careful about their actions online then, wouldn't they? Because everything that they could do would have consequences for them personally. Especially if you live in a place like China.
Which is another reason why I'm a bit skeptical of it, because it is China and they are known for having a stranglehold on what their people can and can't say.
Control, isn't it?
Exactly. That's what these measures aren't necessarily objectively bad, especially the curfew and the payment stuff.
Limit,
But it's a control thing. It's not for the good of people. But all of it comes from the mind of their leader, General Secretary Xi Jinping, I think is how he pronounced his name.
Yeah.
And he's like, he hates socialism and all that this is totally what he's about. And he's been really doing this long, ongoing push for games featuring like sexual content or violent content and gambling to be banned, like outright.
Yeah.
And again, that's not strictly like a bad thing, because there are arguments certainly that video game violence shouldn't be shown to children, but just age gate it. I don't think banning it outright is the solution.
No.
The amount of times we've bloody talked about gambling and microtransactions and loot boxes and stuff, that's kind of we all know where we stand on that one. But the thing is, there's obvious ways to get around these restrictions anyway, and can you really enforce anything like this? What's the point of something being a law if you can't police it? So kids can just use their parents' ID numbers, or like an older sibling or something like that. There needs to be infrastructure, if they want this to work, to tie those numbers to specific accounts and that sort of stuff. Or like, how are you supposed to monitor people if they're not playing on like an online game? If little Chinese Billy over there, he's playing I don't know, League of Legends. That's easy to monitor because it's online, it's competitive, huge community. You can just see, Bing, he's on, he's not supposed to be, get rid of him.
Yeah.
Like, what happens next? Does he get punished? Do the parents get a fine? Does he get a fine? Does he get banned from playing for a week, a month, a year? Who knows?
How is it enforced, right?
Yeah.
So how do you enforce those time limits? And like you said, what are the repercussions of exceeding the time limits?
And what if you're playing an offline game where you're not connected to the internet at all, but you're still just as addicted, because addiction is a big problem in China. Like if you're playing, I don't know, if you're like a Dark Souls player, but you're playing offline with no connection to other people, none of the, what do they call it, asynchronous multiplayer. If you're just grinding away on the hard difficulties and you're getting really, really angry because, it's fucking Dark Souls, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. How do you control that? Like, I don't understand how they're supposed to enforce this. But linking back to gaming addiction in China in general, I briefly skimmed through one article because I was like, I could read pages and pages and pages and get this information. But I took one from 2017, and it was The Guardian because it was like a companion piece with this. And an estimated 24 million people in China were classified as internet addicts.
Wow.
Which is pretty staggering considering, there is a billion people there.
Yeah.
But 24 million is still a hell of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of the internet in China is restricted. I think they can't use Facebook. I think they can use YouTube, but even then a lot of it's regulated and whatnot. Apparently a 17-year-old girl had a certain type of stroke after playing 40 consecutive hours of a game called King of Glory.
Yeah.
40 hours, that's a long time to just be playing one. It's just a mobile game. It's a MOBA. It's also known as Wang Zi Rong Yao. I think that's how you pronounce it. Just like a, your standard MOBA sort of stuff.
Yeah. Is that Arena of Valor? No? Honor of Kings?
Glory of King of Glory. It's got a bunch of different names.
Yeah.
From different.
Arena of, it's like the biggest game, is it?
Yeah.
Kings of Glory.
Yeah, it makes a lot of money.
Honor of Glory. Yeah, Honor of Kings. Yeah. I think they're bringing it over to this country, or to the West under a different name again, because apparently it doesn't have enough names. So.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of money, and Tencent own that one, so just remember that name because I'll come back to them. And this definitely, in my opinion, isn't for the benefit of children and gamers. It's another system of control. It may end up being a benefit to children if they can find a way to keep these curfews on, which I do think are a good thing, and payment limits. But to me, this is them controlling what is considered bad and unhealthy, rather than what actually is. Yeah, if you know what I mean, because things like smoking and alcohol and stuff, they're really bad for you. But the governments everywhere won't ever ban it because they make money off it. Yeah. But gaming, it's an easy target, especially for an older generation like their leader, Xi Jinping's. He's not going to understand gaming. He's not really going to care. I assume he's not a game player unless maybe he plays a Winnie the Pooh game. Yeah. That's a topical reference for you.
Well, we're banned in China now.
Too late. But yeah, it's banning it and controlling it without fully understanding it, and certainly without fully understanding the potential benefits of it.
Yeah.
Because I think if you wanted it to actually be for the good of for people, you'd explain the benefits as well as the downsides.
That's true.
Because like there's stuff like social interaction, like community forming, cause the amount of people who feel isolated and totally alone, but then they find a community through their online game and they make friends for life.
Potential for creativity as well.
Problem solving. Hand-eye coordination is always the easy one that my dad always used. It's like, well, at least you're improving your hand-eye coordination. Didn't understand anything
Getting interested in other like topics or history in that. Like
education. And then
I wouldn't be interested otherwise.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of the same stuff you can...
Strategy.
Yeah. Then there's loads of the stuff that you can learn from, same way you can from film or books and literature in general, is like critical thinking and engaging with like a text and like an artistic, creative sense. So if they really wanted to help people, they wouldn't ban it, they would educate.
Yeah, that's true.
But banning is the easy answer, because you don't need to research it. You can just say with your authoritarian, Chinese communist big red boot, no, stop it, do what I say, otherwise you'll be in trouble. Who knows what kind of trouble though, but
yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I mean having the government involved in people's recreation time is always very dubious, and it's questionable how much actual harm gaming can do in the same sense as like smoking or drinking or stuff like that. Society's ills, you could question. I mean, is like drinking and smoking banned in China?
I don't know. I reckon there's probably some restrictions on it, but there's so many things worse than gaming that people could be doing. Yeah. And gaming's not perfect. It's got its problems, like addiction, but that's not a problem I think the government should be solving with legislation.
No, so it's very
it should be your parents doing this with help from government, with like resources like guidebooks and stuff.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's so much of society. We're talking very. It's gone very deep today in this conversation. We're talking politics and the role of government in our lives and stuff. But I think a better situation or a better direction from the government would be just to educate the masses, right? Yeah. Because so many people are just uninformed, rather than just, like you say, impose all these restrictions and you have to behave this way because it's for the greater good. Why is it for the greater good? Like, people ask questions, like, we just explain to us why we can't do this. Like, that's how it leads to like resentment, and you just educate your people and like let them make their informed decisions themselves. And then the government need not. Is there someone outside the door? And the government need not have to restrict people's civil liberties, essentially. But then again, it is China, and
I mean that's
not our fight, really.
I mean, it won't really affect me, but it's. Sorry, I've just lost my train of thought because there's people mucking about outside,
looking at radiators.
So the part of the problem with this is that I'm not sure criminal will be the right word, but it essentially creates an illegal market. That's not quite the same wording, but like, you are making people who were doing something fairly innocuous and innocent break the rules, even though they haven't, strictly speaking, done anything wrong. I mean, obviously the people who are actually in danger of hurting themselves, like these people who are playing 40 hours consecutively on mobile games and spending thousands and thousands and thousands, that's not good. But all the people who are gaming perfectly innocently, they're going to potentially get punished and feel the problems with this too. But the interesting thing about this whole thing is that, despite my belief that this is totally just a system of control and like oppression, is the result still good?
Do the ends justify the means? Kind of,
yeah. Or do the means justify the ends?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, limits on spending will help, because the amount of stories we've seen about kids racking up thousands and thousands of pounds or dollars or whatever on their parents' credit cards, because it's not even to do with the parents not educating them or not telling them not to. The kid just hasn't made the connection that this is real, and they keep pressing it over and over again. Especially with mobile cash grab games like your Candy Crushes and your Clash of Clans. And curfews, while I think 90 minutes is arguably a bit harsh, but that could open up time for other activities, like for work on academics, so you could do better at school, or sports, get fit and healthy, or work, take up a job if you're like a 16 to 18 year old or something. or work on art and visual crafty things, or music, or anything creative or beneficial to you that isn't a video game. So there's people chatting out there still.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? Because if at the end of all this they have a better society because people are more responsible online, because people don't get addicted to people are more considerate about where they spend their time doing. I mean, is that that level of control that they've imposed, does that justify? Sorry, is there's the end there, which they've got a better society in air quotes, because I mean, by whose standards, by who's measuring that shit, that type of thing, because you get a better society as an end result. Are they right in imposing all these restrictions? And if that is the case, then where do they draw the line? If they deem that, you're not allowed to drive to work anymore because it's better for you to walk, so everyone must walk. Where do you draw the line in terms of what's good for society versus what's bad for you? Like, you must act like what you're doing, you're contributing to society. And I think that's maybe where China are a little bit more focused in, for the greater good, for the greater society, rather than for the individual. I'm just speculating, I don't know, but maybe that's where they're coming from in terms of, you have to do this for the greater good of everyone.
I think as much as this could lead to good things for people, like learning new skills and new creative or academic things or whatever, it could just as easily lead to bad things, especially for people who are already addicted to different video game stuff. Because if you've got an addictable, I think is the word, personality, where you're kind of almost obsessive,
to be addicted.
You'll find something and that's your entire vision, you're more than likely to end up doing something significantly worse, like getting addicted to alcohol or drugs or smoking. And if kids are inside in their parents' house with parents' help, that keeps them off the streets, keeps them out of the real world dangers that are out in the public, with other people. But one of my closing thoughts about this is how Blizzard feel about this, because Tencent has been a massive force behind this. They're the huge mega gaming corporation who own pretty much every gaming thing in China, and a lot of Western companies route their stuff through Tencent so they'll communicate with them, and then Tencent will publish it and they'll figure stuff out like that.
Because legally, Western companies aren't allowed to publish anything in China, so they have to use a partner. So Tencent partner with the Western companies, as well as NetEase, with Western companies, in order to bring the games from the West into China. Obviously, they take their cut. That's why Tencent have got a certain percentage of various companies like Ubisoft and Epic Games or whatever. It's
never quite enough to be a majority, but it's certainly it's usually in the 40s, 40%. I wonder how Blizzard feel about this sort of stuff, or other companies looking to do business in China. But I use Blizzard specifically because obviously they're in the news a lot at the moment. Did they back the wrong horse with China? Because if this sort of stuff limits people's game time and spending, that means that their game is less profitable over there than it perhaps would have been if people... Because obviously all of these companies, they do want you to sink 40 hours at one time and spend thousands and thousands every day.
They don't want restrictions on gaming.
I mean,
the more you play, the more you pay, right?
Exactly. I mean, there's certainly a moral barrier that I'm sure some of these corporate bigwigs must have somewhere deep in their wrinkled little souls. But I want to know how other actual game companies feel about this sort of thing.
Well, if you consider the population of China is 1.3 billion, I've just Googled it. The population of the US is 327 million. So it's roughly 4 times the size, or 4 and a bit times the size of China. So if you think that even if Chinese people on average play 4 times less, they're still kind of making the same amount of money. If you think of it in terms of raw numbers. So I don't even think that's the case, right? Because US players cannot be playing 4 times longer than Chinese players. So the market in China is just so big, that many multiples bigger than the likes of the US, for example, that it doesn't matter they're only playing for 90 minutes, because that's equivalent of 4 hours, or 6 hours in the US,
something like that,
per population, per capita, or if you equivalency.
I think the per capita thing is interesting because China's obviously massive, but there's a lot of like rural farmland and stuff where people aren't going to be playing games. I think the highest per capita gaming population, I think, is Japan, but that's because Japan is so much smaller than most other countries, and everyone there is gaming all the time.
But one thing's for certain, this is a big boys, grown-ups conversation. We're talking politics here. We're talking about role of governments. We're talking about big corporations, and it's about morality as well. And keep politics out of our games. I mean, it's always a conversation.
Politics are putting themselves in games here.
It's always a conversation, and it's about what's right and wrong, right? And that's two things that we've discussed today: what's right and wrong in gaming. And we're here to handle the important topics, guys. That's what the role of PGG is in this world. God damn it, we're not shy of discussing and trying to make sense of this bullshit, because even though we might not make a great deal of it, but at least we're having the conversation, guys. We might not bring any insight whatsoever to it, but at least we're talking. That's the important thing, and we're not being toxic about it. We're being kind of nice most of the time.
I hate the expression "keep politics out of games" because I understand what you're trying to say, but politics are there whether you like it or not in some form or another.
That's such a bad catch-all term.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I don't like about it, is that it's so broad and just sweeping.
This is what they mean about keep politics out of games. Stop them from imposing or restricting us from games. That's what they mean by keep politics out of games. Not like political themes and shit. That's not what they mean by keep politics out of games. Not that I think, anyway.
I think some people do. They like they'll play a Call of Duty and like, this one got all political, but it's like, but they've always been political. They're about war, for fuck's sake. That's about as political as you can get. Everything is. It's just when it's forced narratives and stuff. That's when I don't like it personally, and I think that's what a lot of people mean. It just doesn't necessarily come across in the best way.
And on that note, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to the second part of the podcast. Now, next up, we will be taking questions from the Discord community, the Patreon supporters. And then after that, we'll be taking reading out their best YouTube comments that we found this week. The best or the most triggered, or just the ones that kind of stuck out for us. On that note, let's jump in with the questions. And these questions are put to us by our Patreon community members over at patreon.com/prettygoodgame, and these are the guys who support us bring you this content. So if you do love the content and you watch us on the regular and you want to support us bringing you this in future, it really does matter. It really does make a huge difference. Head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgame, and we appreciate every single donation. Thank you very much.
All right.
So let's move on.
First up is a question from Metal Shark. With the expected release of Man-Eater next year, lauded as GTA, but you're a shark, what alternative would you like to play a GTA style game as? A python in the plumbing of Portsmouth, a Yorkshire in Yorkshire, a Margwai in Manchester, or something else entirely? A Yorkshire is a predator from Predator, and a Margwai is one of the gremlins from Gremlins.
Margwai, yeah.
I really fancy the look of Man-Eater. I think it looks like loads of fun.
Yeah.
Just eating people.
Fun. Yeah.
I feel like any kind of monster game where you can just terrorize people, because that's what we mean by a GTA style game, where it's just like a sandbox for anarchy.
Yeah.
Like if I could be a dinosaur or a Godzilla and just smash stuff up, because there's the occasional Godzilla game that comes out every now and then, but they're all garbage.
Smashing stuff is fun, right?
Yeah.
Let's smash stuff up. Thinking more kind of in line with GTA than a monster smashing stuff up simulator. Maybe a GTA set in when you're like a ninja or something in like ancient Japan, like some sort of ninja.
Yeah.
Ninja GTA.
Hopefully we're going to get something along that line with Ghost of Tsushima whenever that comes out.
Yeah. There you go. Hopefully that will appease me. That's for sure. Thanks for the question, Mr. Metal Shark. Ventus Prime is next. We all get a laugh out of you reading the triggered commenters, but how about a little on the other side of things? How about reading some more comments that you find notable and intelligent and bring valid points from your videos?
I do that every now and then.
Yeah, we try to do that. I think the problem with it is that it's so focused on getting a triggered fanboy comment of the week. I usually just screenshot during the week. I screenshot the triggered comments, and then what I end up with like at the end of the week is a bunch of kind of triggered comments, and I got to pick one for the triggered fanboy comment of the week. I should definitely screenshot more of the more ones with good points. That's for sure. But I feel like when we do that, they're more like, it's more like an echo chamber. Then it's like we kind of validate our own opinions.
Yeah,
and
patting ourselves on the back type thing can sound a bit douchey.
But you definitely got a point, Mr. Venter, because
if I feel like we've been negative for too long, I'll see if I can
throw something positive.
Dig one out. Yeah.
We'll try harder. Sorry about that.
Okay, where are we? Here we go. Next up from Hobo Boxer. Do you ever do anything spontaneous? I've been trying to order food I've never tried before or go to new restaurants. Recently, I ordered a daily special called the Face Melter, a burger featuring pico de gallo, sriracha, and ghost pepper chips. This sounds amazing. It tasted pretty good, nice, but it was so spicy I could only eat half of it. Weak. Don't care how spicy it is. Your pride's on the line. Well, although did they have like when you eat it, you get your picture on the wall? Because if that's there, then you gotta
finish it, or you're not a man.
Please share with us a tale of your spontaneity, or perhaps this will inspire you, and you'll have a story for next week.
That's a good point, right? I mean, being spontaneous is difficult. I mean, ordering something slightly, that you abnormal that you don't normally order. If that counts as spontaneous, then that's fine. But
that's adventurous more than say spontaneous.
I feel like spontaneity is so much more restricted when you've got kids, and this is an excuse. But you can't just do stuff, go places, and try new experiences when you've got two little shitty ball and chains that you've got to feed, you've got to look after, that whinge at you for certain shit. I sound very resentful, but I do love my kids, I promise you. But yeah, they have strangled my spontaneity over the last 10 years, 11 years now. So I'm looking forward to when they can feed themselves and look after themselves. So
just
me and the wife
give them a sharp stick and send them in the woods. Come back with a squirrel.
Yeah.
I don't always, but I like to try to be spontaneous. I don't like plans that much.
You're young, you've got no responsibility, exactly, you've got a girlfriend,
but she's totally the opposite. She needs to have a plan.
That's women, mate.
Exactly. If we're doing anything, she's like, right, well, I want to be here at this time, we're going to go early. No, we're not fucking going early. It's a party that starts at 7. You don't get there at 7. Earliest you get there is 7:30. But yeah, I try to be spontaneous. Like every now and then, the best way to do it is I'll message my mates, but do you want to hang out tonight? If they say no, all right, cool, I'll just hang out by myself, play video games, see the girlfriend, whatever. In that order, that's my my priority order. Or if not, you can have just a great time.
Yeah. I mean, variety is the spice of life, and that I think that we could all do with being a bit more spontaneous. So hey, this is your homework, Enrique. Homework this week.
Well,
come back with a spontaneous hobo.
Well, I get tattooed spontaneously every now. I think that was fairly spontaneous. My Star Wars one was pretty spontaneous because it was just the guy who has done all of them. Comes up on their Facebook page. Oh, he's got a free slot here. Oh, I'm off that time. Yeah. Let's sort something out.
So remind us next week, Hobo, and if you haven't got anything spontaneous, then we really deserve an F. Yeah, well, to fail this.
Do it at the week. Although, actually, speaking of spontaneity, I didn't really sort it out, but one of my friends messaged me the other day, who I've not seen for a little while, and asked if my girlfriend, and him and his girlfriend go out for food on Saturday, and that's fairly spontaneous.
Yeah,
because it was organised yesterday.
Yeah, so I see what you mean, that going out spontaneous. I mean, I do that occasionally. The kids are at a certain age now, we can do that. But I feel like being spontaneous has a certain barrier. It has to be a big thing.
Yeah, would you have possibly done that anyway?
Yeah.
So
I'd like to hear what other people think about spontaneity in general and what you consider spontaneous. So it helps us with our homework this week. Thanks for the question, Mr. Oberboxer. Not That Rob Lowe is next. Keeping quick before I forget. Year 9, you know the drill. Your favourite game from that year. So every single week, Not That Rob Lowe from the Discord puts the position to us for a number of weeks now. for every year after your birth, what was the game that you played, or what's the best game from that year? We're up to year 9 now, and for Rob, he says it's year 88 for me. Again, Gaz got most of them last week because I'm a year ahead of him. But the Specky version of Robocop, which was different to the others, was the outright winner for me. I have to give a shout out to Cabal though, which is certainly the first third-person cover shooter I remember had a great time playing. So, what's your year this year, Henry, and what was your choice?
I am the not too long ago 2004, and I would have been 9 years old. And there was a lot of good games in there. A lot I have played, a lot I haven't. So I've got two separate things, because I think last time I didn't mention. I think it was either KOTOR or the Old Republic, one of them, one of the big Star Wars games. And someone told me off in the comments, but I was like, yeah, but the rule is I have to play it. So I try not to bother mentioning the ones I know are good because I haven't played, because I don't have anything to add. But you know what? Let's do it. Half-Life 2, I've played one of them, but I can't remember which one.
Mm-hmm.
So, Far Cry, World of Warcraft, Fable, played Fable 2 and 3 but not 1, KOTOR 2 and Rome Total War, which are all games I know of, and they are very critically acclaimed. Rome Total War was a particular one I remember looking at. Like when you're a kid, you go into a game shop and you're like, oh, that's really cool, but it's I've got like I've got a GameCube, I can't play it or whatever. But in terms of the games I have played that I've drawn up, Halo 2, GTA San Andreas, Burnout 3 Takedown, which is my favourite racing game of all time, Metal Gear Solid 3, Spider-Man 2, the movie tie-in, which is now toppled over from being the best Spider-Man game recently, and the original Star Wars Battlefront, one of the good ones. And I could give you a reason for any of these, because they're all very different games. Like Halo's first-person shooter, GTA's open world, there's a racing game, there's a fucking Kojima game which no one can understand, two movie tie-ins, but I'm going to say Metal Gear Solid 3, because I loved that game, and it was the perfect amount of Kojima-isms balanced out with actual gameplay, because they had innovative gameplay mechanics, like using camouflage and having weird ways to take people out. And there's a fight, I don't know if anyone's played it, but there's a fight where you're against a sniper and you can beat him by just waiting. If you wait something like 14 real world days, which you can do by just knocking your console timer further forward, you can beat him because he just dies.
Right.
Because his whole thing is that he can
only survive.
Like sit with his sniper ready to go for like days and days and days without dying, but he's like 100 years old, so eventually he just dies.
Wow. That's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid 3.
Thanks for your answer. Now, I found it very difficult. My year was 1989. I was 8 turning 9 in that December. And this was prime gaming time for me. I remember so many of these games, and I played so many of these games, and I had a list of like 13 or 14 games. I've whittled them down to 8. And these are the games that I loved, right? Not just the games that I played. So I don't think I've got a winner, but I'm going to go through them, and then maybe that'll spark a thought. Golden Axe, classic 2-player game. Batman the video game was the first game that I ever bought on my Game Boy, like the very first game I bought. I think the rest we ripped off of a family friend. So yeah, back in the days of piracy. So there's two choices there. Populous, which was the Peter Molyneux God game, which was fucking awesome. I loved that. Rick Dangerous was a platformer. I think Rick Dangerous was my initial choice because it's one of those games that spanks you in the arse. You get 3 lives, and if you don't get that fight, you start again from the very beginning of the fucking game. It's one of them, and it really had something of an impact on me. That it's one of those games that you really can't forget from playing as a kid. Prince of Persia, the original Prince of Persia, not the remake. That again was a classic game that I played a lot of time. Kickoff. Now we were talking about football games, and I did play Sensible Soccer, and that'll be coming in a few weeks' time probably. But Kickoff was one of the big football fan. I used to play football as a kid. That was a fantastic game. Now a couple of R-Type 2. Was a game I did play for a long time, but I don't think that's going to win. North and South, however, I think this might be the winner. North and South. North and South was a game where it was set during the American Civil War, and you had to fight against. It's like you've got a campaign map, and then you've got like the real-time battles, and you like your. North and South game, and you move your armies around on the map. And try and kind of conquer the rebels or whatever it was. So it was like the first kind of strategy game, and then there was this other weird kind of side-scrolling mission that you used to do. From what I remember, it's very difficult to explain, but it was one of the first games where you've got multiple facets to it. Like you've got overall strategy, and then you've got like these individual moments where you battle against other nations, stuff like that. And there's random occurrences. I remember there's one like Mexican dude down the bottom left of the map, and sometimes he'd throw out a tomahawk and he'd just chop your army in half, which was pretty cool, although it was weird. And there's one mission where you'd like run across a train or something. I hardly remember, but I think in terms of games that offered you more than just a single mechanic, I think North and South has to take it for me. That's for sure. And Populous is a close, because that was such a good game, and it was a precursor to many of the like grand strategy type games now, because you could just do anything, manipulate the terrain and build up all sorts of stuff. It was a game ahead of its time, I think, Populous, because the hardware that it ran on didn't do it justice. Anyway, that was a long answer, and I narrowed it down. In the end, I think Populous is this just about sneaks the second place, but North and South, I think, is my winner, and everything else goes third. Thanks for your question, Rob.
Well, we've got another one from Rob next. Bonus question. Your favourite music/song from a game? I'm going to cheat slightly, but I thought the soundtrack to Tales from the Borderlands was excellent, but not original scores, so not sure that counts. So it's got to be not a score, but just like a specific piece of music. I mean, scores, I'm glad you said that, because that's easy. I could just be like, oh, all of the games that have come out this year have had really, really good music. I'm currently really enjoying the Outer Worlds music at the moment. It's very triumphant. Like when you get a level up, it's very Star Wars. I'm a big fan of that. Easy ones for me, because I know the names of them, will be certain songs from Doom 2016, which I know I've brought up before. A song called Rip and Tear, which is just brilliant. Like, I like heavy music anyway, but that song punctuates what you're doing so perfectly, and it's exactly who the Doomslayer is in that song. What about you? I'm not really big fans. I think like the Skyrim is the classic one. Like the Skyrim soundtrack is pretty damn solid. You can't really it's just very solid. In terms of one that I enjoyed the most, I think that Mafia 3 had a good soundtrack, because there's loads of music from the 60s. It's like being in GTA, but you got 60s on your radio, and there's the band are in that. They've got Johnny Cash. Like from what I remember, there's just so many decent songs in that one. So those are ones that stick out to me. There's some songs from Days Gone which are really good, which aren't score, they're actual songs, and they're like proper named songs by other artists, and they're really good, but I can't remember what any of them are called. I'll come back to you on that, but let's just listen to the Days Gone soundtrack. That's real good. Alright, what's next?
Oh, just on that last note, I think the Stardew Valley soundtrack is pretty cool, because it's dead chilled, so chilled. It's like plinky kind of plinky plonky type of music. I can't really describe it, but it's like it's such an indie game with like low. I can't find the words to do it justice, but it's dead chilled is what it is. Put that on and just like chill out. Anyway, thanks for your question, Rob. Moving on. Durlock Sergio asks, an abstract shag, marry, kill. Here we go. EA, Bethesda, and Activision. Okay. We'll try and answer this. He goes with kill the company, cease to exist. Shag the fuck this company, but oh look, it's Diablo 4. Or marry the only survivor. More of their monetized, broken, shitty games in the years to come. So so marry means you have to put up with their broken, shitty games for years to come. Shag means fuck this company, but oh look, it's Diablo 4. Whatever that means. And then kill, obviously, they die. EA, Bethesda, Activision.
I reckon kill Activision. They don't do enough that I like, that I want it to keep existing. EA can shag because they've got the Star Wars license, and while they do a lot of shit, I'm hopeful for the future. Like this, fuck this company, but oh look, it's Diablo 4. Fuck this company, but oh look, Jedi Fallen Order or whatever. And marry. It's going to be a very bitter marriage, very sexless marriage.
Like all marriages?
With Bethesda.
Yeah.
But maybe it'll definitely be the toxic relationship where it's like, maybe I can change him.
Well, yeah. The thing with Bethesda is you remember the good times, like, you know what I mean? You did have good times
when you had sex, in the middle of the day, spontaneously.
That's it.
Spontaneous. That's it.
Before the kids came along and threw in microtransactions and all these games as a service bullshit, right? And tied you down on the long term. You don't want to be tied down for the long term, right? Bullshit to that, Bethesda. Looking
through photo albums and just like, oh... Look at that.
The good old
We're
days.
at the beach.
I think you're absolutely right with that. I think Bethesda are the only ones who deserve to be spared due to the back catalogue, due to the good times that we had. I think
they've only recently gone bad in like the last 2 years-ish, less than that, maybe 18 months. The others have been bad for a little bit longer.
They did, although they didn't make it, they did create Fallout New Vegas. They're facilitating that creation. They were there to bring that to us without making it themselves directly. So I guess they deserve a lot of credit for that in my book. Thanks for your question, Mr. Sergio. Let us know if we got the wrong answer there.
All right, next up is from Metal Shark. Backup question. If you could play a Disco Elysium experience, brackets, waking up with a hangover and no memory, choose your own Destiny attributes persona role-playing game, but you're playing a politician from any country/time period, who would you choose to be? Now...
It's very specific, this, because Disco Elysium obviously is this new game that's just come out. It's like a isometric RPG. You play one character, but the role-playing elements are voices in your head. So you've got different character attributes that you can like level up, and then that open up different kind of avenues for dialogue while you're playing the game. So this specifically is using that template, but you're playing a politician from any country time period. Who would you choose to be?
I think, now this might be controversial, but I'd probably like to role play as like one of the famous like bad ones, like a tyrant, someone like Hitler. A Stalin or a Hitler or a Mussolini, or
there's more action, more stuff going on, right?
Exactly, to see what that world was like, and to try and make the opposite choices. So that's one of the big things about RPGs.
Yeah,
it's making different choices. See if I can fix Germany, because Hitler did manage that.
Yeah, without
the final solution, without invading Poland, without starting the Second World War.
Politician from any country time period. I mean, waking up with a hangover, no memory, choose your own Destiny attributes persona role-playing game. Politician from any... I mean, this is a difficult one because...
Plays Boris Johnson now.
It would be cool to do something, I know it's like around the American Revolution and George Washington or whatever, that type of period.
I was thinking a bit like that. Do the English Civil War and be what's his face, Cromwell, Oliver Cromwell versus King Charles the First.
Wow, your history is a lot better than mine. Something on that, or like go back to politician. I guess it's not politician. We're talking about like ancient kings and stuff in the Middle Ages, but yeah, I'll stick with that. I'll stick with George Washington.
Yeah.
And that side of things. Thanks for your question, Mr. Metal Shark. Two-Shot Tino is next. As I'm currently drunk, I'm going to ask a drunken game-related question. Why not? I often start gaming when I come in drunk and promptly fall asleep. Once I logged into a game called Shire, a bit like World of Warcraft, and started running a dungeon with guildmates, and yes, I fell asleep. Wow. How could you do that to them? How could you do that to them? In this game, if you died, you lost your character forever. Oh shit. I was max level and loads of great gear, plus 2 years of time invested. My guild members took it in turns to keep my character alive by killing mobs until I woke up 9 hours later. Oh my god, your friends are the best.
Yeah, you've got good fucking buddies
9 hours?
That's not just like falling asleep, like having a bit of that's a full sleep and you wake up tomorrow.
That's the best story of the week.
You should be, if I was those mates, I'd be like, get him out of the fucking guild. There's Robbie's
they've got your back though.
Yeah,
that's what you need, isn't it? 9 hours of while you sleep off your drunken antics. Wow, that is like brilliant.
Killing the mobs until you woke up. So they just have to make a little blockade around you and kill everything. But then if they needed to move, they'd have to like push your body. I don't know if that's something you can do.
That is epic. You should be thanking that. You should. I hope they're on your Christmas card list after that. Oh my god. I mean, at the very least, you should be thanking them in some way. 9 hours of servitude to save your character, which is over 2 years of your time that you invested. How about How about giving one of them your phone number so they can phone you up in real life and wake you up next time you fall asleep or something? But or maybe
imagine if you were like role playing. I don't know how the infrastructure of this game works, but like if you were the team's designated like healer or something, and everyone's just on the floor at your feet, it's like, come on.
Classic. That's a great story. That Two-Shot Tino. Thanks for sharing it.
So, have you got any drunken gaming stories? That's the
Oh, sorry. I was just so enthralled by that story.
Yeah.
Drunken
it's
gaming
certainly
stories.
Not as good as this story. And like, I never get drunk and then come back and play games. But anytime I have done that, I've just fallen asleep with the controller in my hand, like at the main menu. But it's normally playing Mario Kart or Smash Bros or something. Although on the weekend on Saturday, we're playing Mario Kart, just casual, few drinks before we went out to my mate's house for a party. And my girlfriend, who is shocking at Mario Kart, and I'm not very good, but I can hold a race. Now one of the other guys who's okay, he was about to come second. I'd already won.
Of course.
I mean, that's what it was. Only 100cc. It wasn't very difficult. I mean, that's like it put me on 150. I'm just in the walls the whole time. Yeah. And it was one of those moments where she just performed perfectly. It wasn't Mario Kart is bullshit. Yeah. Nintendo cannot make a legitimately competitive game. They can't do it. They're fun, but they're not like properly competitive because it's just blue shells all the time. But she like pulled up right behind him, got in the what do you call it? The slipstream, slingshotted around him, bumped him out of the way, took second by about a second, and it was incredible. Because we were all so invested in that moment. We're just like, fuck it, come on! So that was great.
That sounds like a moment. Drunken gamer stories, don't really. I mean, I don't drink anymore, but from what I remember, I did used to drink and play a lot of Call of Duty back in the day. We're talking 10 years plus ago now. Or play poker. I used to play a lot of poker, and it's whether that counts as a game or not, I don't know. But online poker, I used to play a lot of. But going back to Call of Duty, I remember like Search and Destroy back, maybe Call of Duty 2, something like that. Where you're getting in like a similar kind of thing, where you get into a zone and you just razor sharp and you just
laser focused
and I'd maybe go on a kill streak of like and a search and destroy game type, so it's very difficult to to stay alive for rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds, right? But I remember one time on one specific map and one specific occasion when I was like proper half cut, and you think to yourself, I'm not really that drunk, but really if you had a blood test you'd be fucking way off the scale. But absolutely owning everybody on the map and thinking this is easy, like it's like a superpower, this alcohol, man. But yeah, lo and behold, I was just in the zone. It's weird, that, isn't it? There is a zone you can get into where you just feel like although you're pissed as fuck, you just feel like
it's like a new level of like
clarity,
and consciousness, out of body experience, definitely.
Thanks for your question, Mr. Two-Shot Tino.
Okay, next up, we've got another Shag, Marry, Kill from Cloney. I'm half asleep, so this ought to be good. Shag, Marry, Kill, but you would be permanently transformed into a woman. Okay, so we've got Alex Danvers, sister of Kara Zor-El from DC's Supergirl. So she's basically the same as Supergirl. She's presumably got superpowers. I'm not familiar with who she is, but she's...
sorry, let me clarify this situation. You're a lesbian in this situation, right?
Yeah, but you are permanently switched into being a female. You get to be a lady.
So you're a lesbian lover of this person that you shag, marrying, or killing, right? Yeah, that's the scenario. Just to get my head round it.
Then who's the second one? I've just lost it.
Why not just be man? I mean, I don't know.
Because it's boring. We've had the bloke ones for so long. This adds an extra level to it.
All right.
Mystique, the shape-shifting anti-hero from the X-Men, and Vampirella by Dynamite Entertainment. I had to really go deep to find a lesbian hero not by DC or Marvel. Now let me just get these pictures up. Mystique, I know what she looks like. She's blue and pretty cool. Vampirella, is that what it is? There we go. Oh, she looks quite fabulous. Right. Alright, what's Cloney's options? I'd shag Alex because, have you seen that lady? She's 37. I would kill Mystique because, she can be anything for you, but would never be boring, but she's also often on the evil side and we would be hunted or she'd be killed. I'd marry Vampirella by default, but also because she's an immortal vampire in a post-apocalyptic world. So, on a side note, it's unforgivable that I forgot to include Jessica Jones last week.
Yeah.
What was last week?
The mental...
Oh, yeah. Characters with depression.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, Mystique, that all-in-one bodysuit, and you're talking Jennifer Lawrence here, so...
she can shapeshift. Even if you're bored of that, you can have her.
You've got her. I mean, I'd marry her just for the...
Nah, you're right about the being hunted thing, because she's a mutant. And
I don't care about that. Her. I don't care about that. Just look at her.
Yeah, no, I have done. Trust me.
Okay, that's clarified.
Now, I think it's going to have to be kill Alex Danvers, because she's obviously an attractive girl, but I don't really know what she's got going for her.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's Supergirl's sister, she's a Kryptonian, she's going to be superhero, super strong and everything. She's probably going to kill you by accident doing whatever you got to be doing. Mystique, I think I'm going to shag, because she's not very trustworthy, but she can shapeshift into anyone you want.
But if you're married to her, she's committed to you, right?
Yeah, but she's not trustworthy. She's going to betray you.
You don't know that. If she's married to someone, that's a different commitment. It's not like a regular person who she can betray all the time. She's agreed to marry you, so she abides by those laws.
But I'm a human, and she's a mutant, so eventually in our little Romeo and Juliet love story...
Juliet and Julia?
Yeah, Juliet and Julia. There's going to be a line drawn, and we're going to fight to be together, and we're both going to end up dead. So... okay. She's just getting shagged. Sorry, love.
She's just getting shagged. Sorry, love.
Sorry, sweetheart. And I don't know anything about this
if
Vampirella
we did have any
person.
Women, girls or females listen to our podcast or watching this, they've all just switched off right now. Sorry, love, you're getting shagged.
Well, then again, I don't really know much about who this Vampirella
that outfit's
is.
Pretty kinky. So
exactly. So that
you can't marry her. I'm shagging Vampirella, by the way. I'm marrying Mystique.
I might have to switch to marry Mystique just because I know her better. I don't know anything about this person. She's got a raunchy outfit, which is
kinky, man.
This
That's
is
what you
awesome. That's rocking. But I don't know. Like, I'm leaning. If she's a vampire, most vampires are like aristocrats, and they're like 300 years old, and they've got loads of money, which is a nice reason.
Sexy, right?
Oh yeah. But we've established that she's got the slutty little outfit on.
So what more do you want from it?
No, to marry it, she can't just be sexy if I'm marrying her. We've already crossed that. They're all sexy.
So yeah, I think by default, Alexanders don't really know much about her, and she doesn't really have much going for her other than that short, dark hair.
Well, she's not very sexualized. She just looks like practical and quite tactical.
Maybe she could be a good one to marry then. Maybe. I don't know. But Mystique, I mean, just the possibilities alone.
Right.
Just the possibilities alone. I have to take that risk. I know she's untrustworthy, but I feel like a marriage is a different relationship to any regular relationship that she's got with just people who she can betray at will.
No, I don't trust her enough, and I think I will marry Vampirella, because then she can turn me into a vampire, and we can both be a vampire forever. And it's not like, oh, but you'll be immortal together, married forever. What if you hate each other? Well, then I'll just kill her. Or she'll just kill me. Right.
Great. Right. Thanks for your question, Mr. Cloney. Mikhail has the last question of the week. Recently, you've been discussing the topic of regulating. 1 second, just reset the camera. Sorry about that. I lost there. You've been discussing the topic of regulating quality of games. I'm interested in how you would rule a broken, refundable game, since bugs in software are just unavoidable. Even if you fix everything, next update could break it. Software is so complex these days that it's, in my opinion, unreasonable to expect a 100% bug-free game. On the other hand, examples like Fallout 76 are clearly out of hand. So the question is, how would we define a law that can differentiate between those cases? This is the problem. Right, this is the question that we were asking. Is like how broken does it have to be before it goes from just being a minor fault to a major fault that warrants a refund, and that's almost impossible, right? Impossible to define. In
particular, with the PC community, it's more difficult to say, all right, we as developers, we want to achieve this resolution and this frame rate. Slap it on the box. that's what the target is, because people have so many different machines. However, in regards to consoles, you're limited by the hardware, because everyone has the same hardware, unless you've got one of the second tier consoles like the Pro or whatever. But I feel like we need more transparency of developers saying, all right, we're targeting 30 or 60 FPS or whatever. It's going to be 1080p, it's going to be 4K, whatever. Pick one, and then if it's not that, you know that there is a problem, which they've made a promise and which they've broken. But obviously they're often unwilling to make these promises, because then they get in trouble for it.
Yeah. That is, if you find the answer to that question, let us know. But I think defining, I think it does warrant more further examination as to like just cosmetic broken bits. If NPCs, for example, don't act like they should do, and they de-immerse you, and they're stretched over like 50 feet like the ones in Fallout 76, or they just like T-posing or whatever, is that a major fault? That's the question, right? Is that, I mean, it de-immerses you from the game, it impacts your experience of the game, it makes you enjoy it less, but does it warrant a refund? It's like, is there any sort of analogy we can draw with any other product that you might have that's kind of a minor fault, but just it stops you enjoying it so much? It's very difficult to kind of quantify, because it's just software, right? It's just software.
Well, because if you had a car which the engine functions, all the wheels turn properly, it moves, but there's like a little imperfection in the steering wheel, which obviously you're going to be handling every single time you turn it. There's that little like a little spike of leather or plastic or whatever. If that's nicking you every time, you can still drive the car. It just makes your experience a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But then again, in that situation, you could just snip it off. You can't just snip out a bug. Yeah. So it's a complicated thing, and you're absolutely right. As software gets more and more complex, it's harder to fix, because there's going to be new bugs that were never even potentially were a bug in the past. Like, if you look back into 2D pixel games, they don't have the same visual glitches, because the visuals aren't there to be glitched.
There's so many variables these days, especially in open world games, and fixing one thing might break another, and we've seen that happen with Fallout 76. It is definitely unreasonable to expect 100% bug-free game, but it's not unreasonable to expect that they check the game. Something glaring and obvious that happens a lot is not unreasonable for them to fix that before launch. So if a certain amount of people experience it and it happens of a certain regularity, that is just negligence. That is just bad. It's just bad development. It's just them exploiting us, selling us a broken product that they know is broken, because they've obviously experienced that. They haven't QA'd it, or they've QA'd it and they've let it go in spite of the fact that it's still broken. I think there needs to be a line drawn where a certain amount of people complain, a certain amount of people, or the how often it happens. There's there's a acceptable level of how often a bug happens, or something. I don't know. That's just a couple of thoughts anyway. But thanks for your question, Mikhail. Again, it's almost impossible to answer that one. Any other thoughts? Let us know down in the comments. Now, this is the time in the podcast, the time of the week where we go and read the triggered fanboy comment of the week. Boom. It was difficult this week. There wasn't that many rants, but I've got a couple. But I think this guy kind of takes it. And this guy was commenting on the Death Stranding video we did on Friday, which was mixed, something about mixed reviews, and it was the review roundup where we talked about the reviews. One reviewer gave it a 35, and people were not happy. Right, and this guy, Mr. Berisha, he says the following: the game is not divisive. The game is not received mixed. Of the people who have played the game, 12 of them have mixed reviews. Just shot yourself in the foot there, dude. One has a negative review, and 63 of them have a very positive view of the game. That's not 50-50. Some people like it, but some people hate it. What? He's saying it's not divisive. Some people like it, some people hate it. What the fuck do you mean? That's exactly what divisive is. You idiots. That's exactly what divisive is. Some people like it, some people don't. You just said that. You said that. You've described the game exactly as divisive and said it's not divisive. I've not even finished.
Oh,
no.
Christ.
No one person didn't like the game, and it's a 63. And 63 others enjoyed the game. Stop with this bullshit narrative of 50-50. We never said it was 50-50.
Where does it say that?
We never said it's 50-50. The game is divisive. You just defined it as divisive yourself. Literally said, some people like it, some people hate it. That is what a divisive is, you idiot, right? And then he says, the game is not received mixed. The title of the video was actually Reviewers Are Mixed, not Reviews Are Mixed. The reviews being mixed would be, the proportion of games positive are kind of the same as negative. That would be a mixed reviews. Reviewers Are Mixed means that reviews themselves, the individuals, say the game is good, but it's boring. That's the point, right? The individuals who reviewed the game are mixed on the game. They have mixed feelings about the game. That's what the title of the video was. You read it again. So you completely misconstrued what we said there, and also you've shot yourself in the foot by saying that it's not divisive, but then went on to describe it as divisive, and you haven't even played the fucking game, so why are you defending it?
There's so much of that. They're like,
look, there's quite a few of them.
We haven't played it, and then there's some people saying, I did have one just gone, but I've it's vanished from me.
Sorry for shouting there, guys. So I've calmed down now.
He's not sorry.
It was funny. That was funny. When he defined it as, oh god.
Where are we? Yeah, there was one saying like, just because Sony didn't send you a review code, you're now reviewing reviews. And I'm like, well,
we've always done that.
Like, this isn't the first time we've done. This ain't my first rodeo, kid. You know?
And the point of reviewing reviews is we're going through a process that we normally would do if we weren't on camera, if we were just at home, if we were, say, a regular viewer and we were trying to assess whether we wanted to buy a game or not. You would. What I hope most of you do is you read lots of reviews from different people, you review the reviews, you check them out, right? You assess them all, and then you make an informed decision as to whether this game appeals to you. All we're doing is we're helping you, we're facilitating that for you in order so that you don't have to do the legwork. You can just listen to or watch the video and you can get a snapshot of what all the reviewers are thinking about this one game. It's not supposed to be a review because that is just one subjective opinion. Mm-hmm. Like, we're trying to get an objective snapshot of what people think in general of the game. That's the point of the review roundup. If you don't get that, then that's your fault. That's your problem. It's not our problem because we haven't got the game. That's not what it's about. But anyway, that's not the point of the video.
There's loads of comments on this one, and this comment is actually a good one. Like the correct way to phrase it from Persian Rug, which is quite a fabulous username. Game looked boring as hell. Totally fine because you haven't played it. You're saying it looks boring.
Yeah.
Awesome. This guy, Andres Abru, guys, let's keep it real. The game is boring. You haven't fucking played it. We haven't fucking played it. Only the reviewers have played it. They can say it's boring. They can say it's really entertaining. They can have different opinions. They're totally fine. But you cannot just say, let's keep it real. The game is boring. You don't fucking know.
Yeah.
We don't fucking know.
I mean, I don't think it's even possible to rubber stamp it like that and say this game is definitely boring because a lot of people will like it, and for them it's not boring.
Yeah, and there's so many people in the comments saying this game is trash. I'm like, you don't know that. You can say it looks like trash. Literally that word, all you need, that hedge, and you'll be totally fine.
On the same note, we talked in that video about the game being a masterpiece, but is it boring? Is it fun to play, right? And this comment is fantastic. Saltine 772 Live says, so a masterpiece of shit. Yes, dude. Yes, dude. How did that not get any fucking likes? I love it.
There's another comment here from a guy called Hey Robert saying, I suspect foul play with these so-called critics bombing a review to get attention. Now we acknowledge this in the video. It's certainly possible that this person put out a bad review to get clicks, to drive revenue on the site through ads and stuff. It happens all the time. Outrage clicks work really well. Just look at everyone on YouTube, including us. When people get annoyed at our thumbnails and stuff, it works.
Yeah, it's usually not what we're talking about in the video. We're just putting it on the thumbnails and title, but so that people click the video and engage with the content. It's not necessarily. I mean, it's just what works, right? It's just what gets people attracted to the. Like we use like a quote from somebody else who is outraged. Doesn't mean we're outraged. Yeah. It's just
like
how it
we
works.
Didn't call it. Or was it a broke piece of garbage?
Irredeemable.
Yeah, irredeemable. Yeah. But you can't just say, I suspect foul play with these so-called critics bombing a review, because you don't know that. You're speaking so authoritatively. That's all these bloody comments are. Just because you disagree, like, yeah, he might have done it for clicks, and if he had, it probably really worked. It probably paid off, made a tidy buck from it, but you don't know that. So
on that same video as well, Boogerball and Snort Sandwich says, talk slow, you piece of shit. You can slow down the video, man.
Literally, there's a button. It's a little cog, which is your settings.
Maybe English isn't your first language, so maybe slow it down. I mean, if I was learning a second language, then I'd probably slow it down.
I mean, he's misplaced. Well, in fact, there isn't a comma in there. In fact, when there should be, it should be talk slow, comma, you piece of shit. Otherwise, it's talk slow, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
And why be that fucking toxic? It's probably at me because I talk quite quickly.
And you're a piece of shit. So.
I mean, he's not wrong, to be fair. So perhaps he's not toxic. Perhaps he's right on the money.
Perhaps he's just, yeah, exactly. Yeah, moving on. Have you got another one?
Yeah, I quite like this one because there's a few people actually sharing the sentiment, which I did quite like to see. Stephen Faria. I'll try it out for myself. There was a lot of mixed reviews for Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, and I really enjoyed those games. Some games aren't for everyone. Yeah. And I like that because you're going to make up your own damn mind. You're not going to be told what to think by reviewers or us, because a lot of people think we're telling them what to think and do take what we say as, oh, this is how I should think. I don't ever want that to be the case. There was someone else who commented, but I can't find it because it's miles away from this comment, saying, I'm going to buy this anyway because I support new thinking, new creativity. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. And then someone commented back with another valid point, which is like, yeah, but I'm not spending 60 quid or 50 quid or $60 to experiment, to maybe like something, because that's a lot of money to drop on something and you hate it. That's the purpose of these reviews, and this review roundup isn't to give our opinions, it's to inform you as best as possible.
That's fair. So moving on now, on last week's podcast we did a shag, marry, kill, and we talked about it earlier about depression, and on that topic Storm Rain commented, never stick your dick in crazy, fellas. Also to add, in reference to reviewers that fit your gaming style, which is kind of on topic to what we're talking about here, I bought the Long Dark on your props a couple of years ago, guys. No regrets. See, you know, if you're aligned with me and my tastes, and if I like a game, then you're more likely to like games in future. If you know, I didn't make that point that well, but you know, if what I say resonates with you on prior games, then you're more likely to like the games that I recommend in future. And you're right, The Long Dark is an awesome game.
Eventually, we'll probably do a review of The Outer Worlds. But then it depends on how long it takes us to finish it, because we've got...
It feels like you might need to play that 2 or 3 times
exactly. To get a full, and I've already spent loads of time not doing Critical Path.
Yeah.
I want to do a Death Stranding one as well, and that's out tomorrow at the time of recording. And then there's Star Wars next week. So
there's a lot of games coming. It's a busy time of year. I got another comment here from Dan Brown. I think it was on yesterday's video. He says, a bit of fixation with shit, but otherwise great video. I avoided the launch because felt ports usually come with bugs, talking about Red Dead Redemption 2.
Gotcha.
And it was overpriced. We'll wait until it's patched and maybe more reasonably priced. Bit of a fixation with shit. Oh yeah, shitting out these games. I think we say
probably
like bullshit. And then I rewatched the video and I didn't think we had a fixation with shit. Maybe it's just...
Maybe Maybe that's his problem. Maybe he's projecting and he's got a bit of a thing for poo. I mean, as long as you're healthy and safe, whatever floats your boat. That's sure as shit doesn't float mine though.
Oh.
No. I got one here from that Red Dead video from Michael MacArthur. There's an interesting thread here, which I obviously won't read through all of it, but this guy said, no issues here, just saying, only played for about 5 hours though. He's saying, like, that's perfectly nice comment. He's not saying, oh, you people are stupid because you're having problems, your equipment's obviously not very good, you dickheads. He's been like, no, I haven't had any issues, but I've not played for all that long, so maybe I've just not encountered any. It's really nice. And then this guy comes in, David Hinkle, just, you're lying. I hate shit like that.
Do you? That trigger?
Not trigger, but like, what does that achieve? Like, because he's the first comment up on the next thing, just like, this person said something and it's just, you're lying.
It's a troll, man. It's a troll.
Yeah. It's exactly.
Like he's looking for a response. I don't
he doesn't
see how
tune back
into
the conversation at any point. It's just, you're lying. And then like 4 people upped it. Well, then it does go into an interesting argument of some people saying, how can you say that? My game is broken as fuck. And then other people being like, well, actually, I haven't had any issues at all. And I do think this is a good point. Because because some people have found that it is broken, which isn't acceptable. I'm not trying to justify that at all. It being in that state is completely unacceptable. The fact that people paid for it is bullshit. But some people did get away with it. Some people got lucky. Got
off scot-free. I mean, this guy, for example, Judge Stone says, so funny how it seems to be working fine for me. He's running an i7-9600, an RX 580, 8GB and 8GB of RAM. Get average 50 to 60 frames per second with high and medium settings. That's fine, right? His next part of the comment is just ridiculous. Seems that some of those trying to play the game do not know how to download latest drivers or even read. Go back to your consoles, your mummy bought for you. Got to download Max Payne 3 and GTA San Andreas, and still all the babies are crying. We'll spend another couple of hours trying tonight playing the best PC game ever. I think this is the kind of... It's like some people are having problems. I'm not having problems, therefore they're stupid or they're lying. That is just a complete illogical conclusion, right? Like, just because you're not having problems doesn't mean that other people do, because other people have got different PC configurations or whatever. And calling them, saying that they do not know how to download the latest drivers or even read is complete idiocy, and it's snobbery, really. I think you need to broaden your horizons, like just because your experience is not representative of everybody else's, and you can't talk down to them just because people haven't fixed their problem, or I think it's just, there was a lot of comments on that video as well saying, oh, I'm alright, don't know what you're talking about, best game ever. And it's like they're trying to talk down to people because they like the game, they're supporting the game. Bit of a fanboy type of mentality, where it's like, you must be stupid, Dan, because I'm having a good time. No, you can't blame this on users, because the experience should be at least good for the majority, if not like 99.9% of people. They should have optimized that shit for everyone and ironed out all those kinks before launch. This is a launch issue, this is a Rockstar issue, this isn't a player issue, and blame it on the players, on part of the community is not constructive at all. You're victim blaming is what you're doing there.
Yeah, and the thing is, some people who do have the highest end stuff all updated are still having problems, and there will be something going on in their system or in software coding and shit which is causing the problem, but the problem is there nonetheless, and it's not their fault that it's happening because their system's really good and it's all updated. It's the launcher's problem and the game's problem because it wasn't properly optimized and it was evidently rushed. Have you got any more? I'm trying to look for a nice positive one. Oh, there we go. I've got one. This is, I think, from last week's podcast. Yeah, a nice positive one, especially for you, Vienticus, from Ben Hawk. Thank you for this, guys. I'm getting the Outer Worlds on my birthday, Thursday, so happy birthday for that. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Just nice, wholesome, you've played a good game, you like it, I'm getting it too, I'm excited. It's nice to say, 'cause I like getting excited about games, but in comment sections are bad for it because it's a lot of ultra fanboying and ultra just shitting on anything that looks like shitting because the sun's out, you know. They're like, oh, it's nice out, let's make everything miserable.
Yeah.
You know.
And on the same note, to finish off this podcast for this week, Jason Jackson on last week's podcast. Great podcast, guys. Thanks for picking up my question. Impressed with the dedication of keeping on the mask, guys.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't do things by halves. And
we did have half a face, didn't have a bottom jaw, half.
Yeah, thanks for undermining my achievement last week and my dedication. Thanks for that, Henry. It's no pat on the back.
I was impressed though. I thought you were going to just rip it off as soon as the intro was done.
It was hot under that.
I was hot in a full hoodie with the hood up. My ears.
Well, I think one of them commented, "Oh, I see Henry's Cobra Kai." So you haven't seen it. Don't know that reference.
Yeah, I was like, that's a Karate Kid thing.
The Karate Kid, like in the Halloween dance or something, they're all dressed up as like Skull and Bones, where they kick the shit out of Daniel LaRusso, and then fucking Mr. Maggie comes and just kicks the shit out of them all, knocks them all against the fence. Awesome moment, classic. But in fact, I didn't pick up on that. He looked like a member of Cobra Kai last week. It was a bit disappointing. I'm disappointed in myself, I must admit. But there we go. That is the podcast for this week. Thanks for watching. Again, if you do want to become a member and support the content, head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. You get access to the podcast 2 days earlier than everybody else, as well as access to the Discord. And thanks very much for considering doing that. We will see you again in the next video or the next podcast. Until then, bye for now.